and I was still in high school. So I did have the abortion, which was a very traumatizing experience. I remember one specific thing I remember was when they were starting the anesthesia, I heard my mother's voice at the door. And she was saying, "Is my daughter in there?" And they said, "Ma'am, you can't come in here. You have to go back to the waiting room." So I know that she was trying to stop what was happening. As a result of having that abortion, I had 5 miscarriages during the 18 years I was married, and 3 of those miscarriages were tubal pregnancies that required emergency surgery, and the last one I almost died. They had to give me a blood transfusion, was just in 2004. And so I'm completely unable to have children as a result of the abortion that I had. So it was not better for me. I spiraled into a horrible lifestyle after the abortion with drinking and drugs and promiscuous sex. The Lord healed my heart. I had a lot of anger issues, a lot of blaming, a lot of self-hatred, and He taught me how to forgive all of the people involved in the abortion. I had an awesome opportunity to forgive the person that raped me and impregnated me. And I said, "Well, you know, I've forgiven him." And she says, "Well, I'm going to talk to him." So she confronted him about it and came back and told me, you know, that he was sorry.
It was spring of 1991, Easter weekend. A girlfriend and I decided that we were going to go to Memphis, Tennessee and kind of do the Elvis thing. And the weekend had gotten away from us, and before the weekend was over, I had become victim to an acquaintance rape that had happened. It was about 30 days after that that I found out that I was pregnant. Took a pregnancy test on my lunch hour, actually. And I had always grown up convinced, strong conviction that abortion was murder. But when you find yourself caught in the trap, it ended up being one of the first things I thought about was going ahead and getting an abortion. Once I found out I was pregnant, I couldn't really contain the pressure of that news to myself, and I had some pretty great parents who always told me, if anything ever happens, you know, you can always tell us anything. So I took advantage of that with my mom one night and explained to her what had happened, and watch her heart break right in front of me. And I told her that, you know, I was considering an abortion because I didn't know any other way out of the situation. She did and took an opportunity to tell my father, and he met me on the front porch the following day, himself broken and in a lot of tears. And we walked into the house, and he wanted to know how things had unfolded, and then he had said that abortion is murder, and we're not going to do that. And honestly, I felt in that truth a new liberty, a new freedom to go ahead and do the next best thing for us. And so I decided from that point on then that we were going to start looking for adoptive parents for the baby, and walked through that process of looking at profiles on parents, and eventually I had decided on a couple from the northern states. And by the time it came time to have the baby, they came to see her. But personally for me, it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be to go ahead and say goodbye. So I actually called a girlfriend of mine who was a mother of 2 twin boys that were 2 years old, single mom, and it said, "Tell me everything, you know, horrible about being a single parent. Just try to convince me that it's the wrong decision." And there was nothing she could say to convince me otherwise. This baby looked me in the eyes, and there was just no way that I could just not be her mom. Being a single parent obviously has a lot of pressures to it, but there has never been a time, ever once, that I've ever regretted the decision. There was just an increase of love and purpose that she brought into my life with that choice. There was a new drive in my life to do well by her because she deserved it. I knew from the beginning that there was nothing of her conception that needed to reflect on her value.
I've never felt that I've been lacking in life, which I know, despite the circumstances, is kind of crazy for people to think, you know, maybe she's felt without a father or felt like a void in her life, and I've never had that lack in my life. I think God's given me a purpose in life to talk to girls who've been in situations like my own, or who are in families that they don't have the best family life. She doesn't have the best father figure, and since God has helped me in my life through the circumstances that I've been put in and put through, I feel like I have a big testimony of my own to be able to share with people.
Well, I was a college student. I was a junior in college, and when the rape occurred, and I came home after I realized that I was pregnant, and I came home, and I had to tell my mom and my dad that I was expecting this baby, and the situation that had happened, that it had been rape. It wasn't anything that I had volunteered to do. And I was really happy about the way that they were so supportive of me. And both of them, my mom and my dad, were both really there for me during that period. She said, well, we're going to have this baby together. And I had a lot of support from my parents. But I was pressured to abort by other family members. And they were telling me things like, you don't know what's in the genes. He could be a crazy man. If he raped you, you know, it could be something in the genes, you know, and then you have a baby that's going to be crazy and do crazy things. But I had grown up in the church, and we had discussed life and how life was created, and that only God can create life. Man may be a tool that he uses, but only God can give that child breath and life. And that stuck so with me that it just wasn't even a thought that I pondered that much to abort that baby. And with the support of my mom and dad, I knew that I didn't even have to consider that. And so when I felt that baby to move in my stomach, it really became real to me that this was an actual human being that I was carrying. And I got excited about it. I was really excited to have this child because I felt it. It moved. It was a person. And it was going to be something that I can love. And I had people asking me a lot about, well, won't that, if you have this baby, you know, you won't ever be able to forget, you know, how it was conceived and all of that. But when Clarissa was born, and I looked down at that little old fat black baby with all the big old loopy curls in his hair, no thoughts of that guy came to me. It was just, this is my child. This is my baby. And she had this big old smile, and I just fell in love with her. I fell in love with her before she was born. I fell in love with her when she kicked in my belly. But when she was actually born and I was able to hold that child, it was just precious to me. And I have no regrets for having this child. When I think about the life that Christ gave, he gave his life to save us. He didn't have that personal relationship like I would have with a child that's growing in my belly. He didn't have that. But yet, he gave his life for me. And so I'm going to kill this child so that I can live? Nah, I don't think so.
And so when she explained to me what happened and how I was conceived, I wasn't upset or angry or anything. In fact, I was actually sort of proud at the fact that I was raised the way I was, and my mom was so strong to raise me by herself, considering, you know, all this had happened to her. And you know, I wasn't angry at him or anything like that. It had been so long. I had a good life.
I was 2 weeks after my 17th birthday. I was at work. I got raped. I didn't remember, like, several days. Don't even remember how I got home. Probably about 3 weeks later, I started wondering what was going on, thought something was wrong with me, and found out eventually that I was pregnant, and was devastated and scared and confused. And my mom was there for me and, you know, told me she would support me whatever choice I made, but had a friend come over and kind of like did an intervention where they counseled me to go for an abortion, and strongly encouraged it, and already had a plan in place for finances and travel and everything. They were going to take me to Dallas, and I told her I needed to think about it, and immediately went to my room and started praying, and they made it sound really good because I could go to college, which was the dream, pursue my art career, you know, and do the things that I already had planned to do. And it didn't pan out that way, because when I got alone with God, and I couldn't do it. It wasn't in me. I couldn't do it. It wasn't the baby's fault. And I told my mom that sink or swim, the baby and I were in it together. And she didn't argue. She didn't throw any fits or anything. She said, okay. I wasn't devastated about the baby as much as I was devastated about the rape. The baby was a highlight. It was like a consolation prize, kind of. It was something to hold on to stay in the here and now and to deal with and to stay strong for. Having her in my life gave me a reason to keep moving forward and a purpose for not sitting down and giving in to self-pity or fear or anger. There was a lot of anger, a lot of rage. But it wasn't towards her. It was towards the fact that she and I were both in a situation that neither one of us asked for. And I told her, I said, well, we're not leaving this room until you tell me what's wrong, because I'm concerned about you. And that's when I found out she had overheard. And her question to me was, how can you love me? And I told her, and I believe this with everything in me, that she was not a mistake, because God doesn't make mistakes. That she was a surprise to me, but He knew she was there. And I told her she was a gift to me, coming out of a really bad place, so that I could get through what happened, and that I really believe that that's why He gave her to me. Because when I see her, I just see beauty. I see love. I see hope. And she gave me strength. She made me who I am, to a certain degree. And I'm very thankful, because without her, life would have been a whole lot different. I wouldn't have my grandchildren. I wouldn't have my daughter.
Well, I think it was very difficult for her, because she was pressured by other people to abort my mother, but she knew that it wasn't the right idea, because it wasn't the baby's fault. It was the man's fault. So she couldn't blame the baby for what had happened to her. And it would have been the same as murder if she would have aborted the baby, because the babies are innocent.
A human being is so much more than a mere function of their DNA. Just because someone was conceived in rape does not mean that they are somehow more predisposed to certain bad behaviors. A person can become anything in this world, irrespective of the circumstances by which they came into it.
She wanted to hold me one more time before relinquishing me to the orphanage. And to avoid her getting attached to me, they told her that I had died. So all this time and throughout her life, she assumed I had